Walter Benjamin said that all great works of literature either dissolve a genre or invent one. So it's no surprise that West Chinatown Toronto producer Paul Chin draws from a veritable mosaic of influences. With literally one hand on a turntable and the other on his Yamaha Montage. With one foot in DJ culture and the other in instrumental composition. This globally aware creative describes his music collection as a controlled undercurrent of chaos, open format, and radically diverse like the music of an orchestra. So much for categorization. Welcome to Yamaha 440 Sessions. That.
Hey, my name is Paul Chin. I'm a music producer, DJ, record collector, record listener, all-around lover of music. I was born and raised in the Cayman Islands, but have been living in Toronto my entire adult life. And this is where I consider home. It was really actually, I heard there was a lot of really good Chinese food here. No, I came to Toronto, really fell in love with the city. A lot of creative people making creative things, doing cool things, and wanted the opportunity to kind of like enjoy that for myself, like not as a student, and see what life might be like trying to have a real career making cool things. And somehow I've stuck it out. I've made it last. It's still really the only place I can imagine, I can like really foresee myself living and creating in like symbiosis. I think there are a lot of other cities that are, you know, objectively better places for industry, right? Or objectively better places to just have a civilian life. But I think Toronto has like a very, very special and unique balances that other places can't really replicate. I've been playing piano since I was 4. You know, my parents put me in piano lessons early, but I actually like really, really took to it and really, really loved it in a way that I think a lot of other sort of like classical overachievers eventually kind of fall off of it. So that was like my intro to music as a whole. That led to when I was in primary school, middle school, high school, like picking up more instruments, playing in school bands and all that other kind of stuff. And I think that the real turning point for me was after I graduated high school and was kind of on my own for the first time and no longer had formalized or like scheduled outlets for music. And then it became apparent that outside of listening to whatever's on my iPod, like if I want to continue having a relationship with music, it's gonna fall to me. And so that was kind of when I decided I want to try digging into, you know, music production. I want to try digging into making my own music, writing my own music. And of course, like that started with a MacBook and GarageBand and, you know, just kind of spiraled out of control from there. The music production came first, but the DJing came very quickly after. DJing was something that I'd always been really interested in, always like loved as an observer, but never had an opportunity to participate in myself. Like I was 19 before I even like saw my first turntable. So yeah, once I finally got a chance to try my hand at DJing, try my hand at playing out music for other people, commanding the playlist for a night. I took to it really, really well, and have loved it all, like, ever since. Because you have this equipment and because you have this way of like interfacing with the music, you can do things to the music that's not recorded into the songs. Not just in terms of choosing or selecting what they hear, but also selecting how they hear it, right? Like, do you play it faster? Do you play it slower? Do you scratch over something? Do you, cut to intro? All of those sorts of things are just tools in a DJ's toolbox, and I really loved seeing people be good at that. Level. I mean, I have a couple. Obviously, I love Sonic Boom just because of the massive selection that's there, but also like Play to Record is a national institution. And then there's also Invisible Cities, and the three of those record shops are all within like 3 blocks of each other on Spadina. I feel very spoiled.
Do you know the guy? I think it's on Queen Street. It's West End. Anyway, like the guy.
Oh, Cosmos?
Yeah.
Yeah, Cosmos
that place is ridiculous, man.
Cosmos is incredible. I really love Cosmos. I'm afraid to go in there because I've never not spent too much money.
Right.
They have records, they have selection, they're pulling stuff that you'll never find anywhere else, like maybe on the planet. One, I didn't want to be a rapper, but I wanted to make beats. And so I had to figure out some way of like making beats that anyone would care about without me having to be a rapper on them, or without having to try and sell them to other rappers. At the same time, I started getting into just more kind of left field music, a lot of producer-centric stuff as well. I guess like it started with Jay Dilla. Of course, his like debut album released, days before he passed away, which was Donuts, an entirely instrumental record. All just like sample-based stuff, beats that he'd been making, just this truly like galaxy brain, like smorgasbord of like ideas, again, without having to have like featured or lead vocalists on it. And from there, I just started just falling further and further down the rabbit hole of like other producers who did stuff like this, and obviously kind of like were inspired by him. And I got put onto the LA beat scene, which was, really just kind of this thriving community of producers, bedroom beat makers, all kind of doing stuff and like uploading beats to SoundCloud, uploading beats to Bandcamp, putting out little beat tape projects, full length records, full length albums of all just instrumentals. And once I kind of came across that and then discovered that there were people here doing that as well, that really galvanized me to just be like, all right, then all you do is make beats and just think about it as instrumental music. So yeah, that's really what a lot of my solo projects have become now, is me thinking about all the music I love, all the people whose like work I've really been inspired by, and finding a way to kind of distill that into my own stuff with my own name on it, just using that as a process to continue putting out into the world like my love letter for every record I've ever loved. I'm at now in terms of everything that I'm making is like, I really want people to have a personal relationship with it, whatever form that takes. And whatever is the way that you specifically channel your love for the music that you love, I hope that there's something in there for you. Yeah, no, you're not wrong. And that is something that I do consciously think about. And I think it's very much informed by like my work as a DJ and kind of like doing these mixes and trying to like command an audience's attention for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, however long you're playing, is an art in and of itself. And so that has very much extended into my production sensibilities. I do like to kind of think about things from top to bottom, like from start to finish. I think there was a period in my early career when, you're right, it was just about like, let me make this song and let me do everything I possibly can in this song, and then let me start on another song, but I can't do anything that I did in the last song because I already did that the very most you could do. And so I think about making albums now in the way that I think a composer might think of scoring, like writing a score for a film, right? Yeah, so now like a big part of the fun is finding the ways to slice out just the smallest little things and pepper them into something else in a different context or in a different part of the story, and have them perk up and be like, oh yeah, I remember that, and I like it, I like that, and oh, I like it here even though it's different, and okay, so there is a connection between these songs. There are definitely things I think about. It might have been around 2014 or so. I was talking with another producer friend of mine, and we were just kind of like having a laugh over how funny it is and how overwhelming all our like sound and sample libraries are, and you'll never go through them all. So around 2014, I started doing this thing at least once every year. I would actually just have a day where it's like I'm going through the sounds and then starring them or putting them in a folder or whatever, and then being like, all right, so when I start making music this year, when I start making new things this year, I don't have to do this anymore because I've already done it. I've already picked out the stuff I like. So yeah, you're right. There are a few like little orchestral elements and things in there that I have picked and that I keep coming back to. And even though I like, making like computer beat music or whatever, I like to have those things because, well, I want to make stuff that can demonstrate that it's just like electronic music. All of these different styles of music are just as musical as more traditional sounds or more traditional stuff. And yeah, it should be for everyone. Yeah, as far as like doing drums or grooves, that kind of stuff, there are two main ways that comes about for me. One is that I'll actually start with everything but the drums first. Once I kind of have something that I like, that I land on, I might play around with it at different tempos just to see if it really kind of sparks anything for me. But once I'm like set on what that's gonna be, then I kind of listen out for the gaps or the spaces in between, whatever I've played melodically, and that kind of influences or inspires then where I put drums and what I do with those drums. Then the second way will actually be where I'm like just so like caught up in the spirit and I'm just like, oh, I want to make a house track, or I want to make a Jersey club track, or I want to make a down-tempo boom bap thing, or I want to make, like a garage track or whatever. And then I'll kind of like sit down and be like, okay, well, what are the rhythmic hallmarks of these genres or styles? And then once I lay things down and it's like, this is a house track as I understand, as the rules would dictate a house track goes, but then I still want to do more to it. I want to like change stuff. I want to take stuff out of it. Then it's like all bets are off. It doesn't have to be a house track anymore. The nice thing about that is that the sort of like house or disco or grime or whatever DNA of the track always remains there, even in like whatever shambles of like that bass you leave behind. Even in times when I thought that, okay, I have to figure out what my genre as an artist is going to be, and I have to like adhere to that. Even when I was doing that, people still didn't really get it, nor people didn't really hear that. And I think it's because subconsciously I was doing this thing all along. I remember once I kind of just like made this beat, and it was just very much like a 94 BPM like head nodder thing that I thought that I made. And then, you know, a blog like posted about it and wrote about it, and it was like the biggest feature I'd ever had in press at the time. And the writer like labeled it as like down tempo like chill wave or something, and I was like, I don't know what that is, but that's me apparently. Genres are hilarious. Genres are funny because they're kind of out of your control. Spending time with the Montage, it didn't even really take that much time for me to figure out, oh, the sound of like my next thing that I want to make is gonna be in here. And for all the same reasons, right? Which is that, oh yes, I've like picked a lot of the stuff that I like. It calls for some of that, but it also calls for, I would say, a fair degree more of like trying to point to or reference to another sound or another sort of like, what I'll say is like relationships with music. So to do that, I'm like, okay, well, I really want to use, and I think I really need to use a lot of sounds that are kind of like defining sounds of like dance music, electronic music, synth-based music. And so having like the Montage that has all the synth sounds of like every legendary Yamaha synth and more, like it's such a no-brainer, right? Rather than having to like go into my computer and dig around for things that, you know, didn't exist when like Quincy Jones was like making Thriller or whatever, or when, you know, Kraftwerk was making like all of their stuff. I've been really, really excited about that prospect of basically having that legendary catalog of sounds that I'm specifically trying to point to and use, like, and then kind of like do what I do with them and find ways to take them down a different road or apply the Paul Chin treatment to them or what have you, right? So I'm really enjoying hardware controls directly on the keyboard is really, really great, because it means that I don't have to like play something out and then come back to a mouse and keyboard and like draw in the automation or pull like faders or whatever around. So it's nice to be able to kind of like sit here, figure out the sound and get it exactly how I want it, and then just play it and then it's there. But I also find that like having the super knob on here and having and seeing the way that it like is programmable, but also already kind of like programmed to a bunch of presets to affect them in different ways and kind of have them do different things. It's just so much fun. It's a lot of fun, and music should be fun. For sure, for sure. The immediacy is incredible. Yeah, just like the swiftness, and yeah, like the ability to kind of like, in that same way I can like set favorites, I can, you know, put things in sort of like my user banks and have them ready to go, load up and save performances and have all of those kind of marked and ready. Yeah, it's everything about like preparing like a session file or whatever, but it just kind of like lasts forever once you've done it, right? So let's start this. Liking how that's coming along. So yeah, that's just a little bit of what I've been pulling together out of the Montage for some dance music.